Hey everyone, Tracy White here, T. Earl on UE4 forums and games and everything else that I happen to do in the online and stuff. And Discord is a good place to get me. I've been slacking pretty much on the forums, and I know I've missed a couple of messages, but hit me on Discord if you need to. I'll have that down in the description. So yeah, my last tutorial was about animation and scrubbing an animation. So as an example, it was actually, I think, this particular animation. Here it is in context. This I do design visualization. We do a bunch of construction projects, for big engineering and consulting project management firm and all that kind of good stuff. So um, the, the last video was how to make a this timeline for animations. So if you haven't seen that one, please go back and take a look. What I do want to show you though in this video is some camera position things that we use to get around. Our construction scenes are sometimes pretty large, so we have this overhead map, and then there's some icons auto-populated on there along with the list on the side. We can save current camera views if we want to, so on and so forth. But what I want to get into today is the blueprint that we use for the cameras, how we drop them into the scene, and a couple of ways that you can step through the cameras or select the camera. I'm not going to get into the overhead map in this video. We'll do that at a later date. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's jump straight into the creation of our preset cameras and how we're going to step through those. So I am going to create a new blueprint actor class, and we're going to call this blueprint preset, and I already have one, but we're going to redo it. Preset cam toot for tutorial. It's short for tutorial, I swear. All right. What we're going to do here is we're just going to add a camera component, and that's pretty much it for right now in the viewport end of things. All right, so before we really do anything with this camera, there's a couple of things that we want to do. We want to add a couple of variables. One is going to be the camera name, and that is going to be a string, and we'll make that public. And then we will also make another one, and this will be the camera transform. And as the name implies, this is going to be a transform. So in the event graph, we're not going to do anything, but in the construction graph, we're going to get, actually, we're just going to get our own reference to our position. And we'll just do that by doing a get actor transform. And then we're going to set our transform based on where this actor is in the scene. This is going to be used later on to set your character to your camera place that you're wanting to go to. All right, that's it for the camera for now. The other thing we're going to have to do, we'll come back to the menu. So let's start with doing the most simple thing, and that's going to be placing the cameras in the scene and then getting reference to the cameras and then stepping through them. So I'm going to take my camera blueprint that we just made, and I'm going to drop one in the scene. The reason we put a camera in the blueprint is so we can see a little preview of where we're at. So ta-da! We're going to name this one barge cam because we're like right next to the barge. I'm going to hold down Alt and drag this out to make a copy of it, and we're going to turn this around, maybe pick it up a little bit, and we're going to call this one crane cam. Let's do one more camera, so drag out. I think it's really important to have a unique name for your cameras, so make sure you'll see where that comes in later, having a unique name for them. So we're going to set the rotation down a little bit, and let's call this one overhead cam 1. You can name these whatever you want, obviously, but that's what we're doing. All right. Let's get into the character. So last time we left our character, the only thing that we really had in there is creating our widget. In the previous video, the widget was called like Anim Scrubber. I renamed it to Toot Menu, as you can see right here, which is short for tutorial menu, not because it's got gas problems. And then we put that into the scene. And we're going to be using that again in just a little while. But for now, the next thing that we want to do is we want to get a reference to all of the preset cameras in the scene. So we're going to do a get all actors of class. And we're going to choose our BP preset camera toot for tutorial. And out of the out actors, I'm just going to go ahead and promote this to a variable, and we'll call this the camera list. So camera list. Now we have all of our actors that are in the scene. It's going to be referenced here, and Bob's your uncle. I actually have an Uncle Bob, but that's beside the point. So that's done. All we need to do now is start setting up some functionality, and I think the first and easiest place to go is going to be this. We're going to use our open bracket and our close bracket key events to go forward and backwards through the list of cameras in our scene. Easy peasy. All right, so the first thing that we're going to want to do is get our camera list, and then we're going to get an index off of that out of the array. And then we're going to use that to set actor location. And then we're also, because we're a character, we can't just set it actor transform. It won't obey the rotation side of the transform. So we're going to have to get player controller, and then we're going to set control rotation. All right, so these are the two things that are going to move our character to its location, the set actor location, and then the control rotation. We're getting those from our camera because if you recall, we have a transform that we set whenever we place the camera down in the scene. I'm going to have to break this so we can individually get the location, to set the actor location, and the rotation. Piece of cake. Okay, a little cleanup here because I'm a little OCD. Not sorry. All right, scale we don't care about because we're not scaling anything. All right, I'm going to move this over a little bit. So what we need to do is determine which camera we're going to get from the list. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to add a new variable, and we're going to call this the camera index. The camera index is going to be an integer, and we will we're going to be doing a couple of things with it, getting it and setting it. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to take the camera index, and whenever we press the close bracket button, we're going to increment that integer. All right, so plus plus will bring up your increment. So just FYI, you can always do a integer plus integer, and then plus one, and then set that, and then do it that way. But a good quick way to just plus one on a variable is just to do the increment. So whenever we do that, we're going to increase. I don't really care which camera we start with, whether it's index 0, 1, or 2. So that, by the way, we have 3 cameras in the scene. We're going to be dealing with index 0, 1, and 2. So as soon as we hit this, it's going to, the default of camera index is 0, and it's going to automatically make that a 1. And that's the camera that we're going to get. So if I were to tie this in as is and hit play, we would step to camera index 1 and then 2, and then if I keep hitting bracket, it's not going to go anywhere. And here's the reason. I'm going to drag that off the screen. We're going to look at my character. You can see that the index the current value is 9, and if I continue to hit the bracket key, it'll step up. But we don't have that many elements in our array, so that's just not going to work, and those are going to be the errors reported in here. It's getting none. So what we're going to need to do is set a branch in here to check to make sure we're not above the maximum number of cameras in the list. All right, so that's going to be a branch. Okay, so I'm going to move this to false because what we're going to check is, are we over the max? All right, so what is the max? The max is going to be, I'm just going to avoid the spaghetti works, I'm going to get this. I'm going to grab the length of the array, and I'm wondering if my new value is greater or equal to the length of the array. If it's not greater than the length of the array, we're going to just continue to step through and doing a plus 1 on it. If it is greater than the length of the array, we're going to circle back around and reset to 0. Okay, hope that makes sense for you. Let's watch that in action. I'm going to step through, and whenever I get to the end of the array, it should step back to 1 or 0. So here's we're going to look at the current value 2, 3, 0 because 2 is the maximum value. Okay, so we're at index 0, index 1, index 2, and then back to 0 because the length of the array is 3. So whenever I increment to 3, it's going to follow the true flag and set it back to 0. All right, cool. What about the other way? Well, if we want to step backwards through our array, we're going to basically do the same thing. So we're going to get our camera index. We're going to do a decrement. And I'm going to go ahead and do the branch here instead of doing an example first like we did because you get the idea. Okay, so basically we want to know if the current index is less than 0. If it's less than 0, we're going to go ahead and reset our camera index to the maximum since we're going backwards here. So we're going to get the length, and in this case we're going to need to do a -1 on it. And let's do a -1. -1. So if that's true, we'll do a -1, and then we'll set, and if it's not below 0, then we're going to go ahead and set our actor location. The reason I do this -1 here is because when this gets the length, it starts counting at 1. So 1, 2, 3. There's 3 items in the array, so this is going to return a 3. So since this is the index and indexes start at 0, 0, 1, 2, I need to -1 whenever I'm setting my index for reference. So once again, we're going to go through here, and I'm going to step positively through, and you'll see it loop around, and then negatively through, and then taking that off screen, we're going to show the way it's wired up. So if I hit the open bracket, it's stepping through. You can see when it reaches the end of the array, it'll wrap back around, reset to 0. And then if I hit the negative key, it's going to, or the open bracket, it'll go the negative values, and then appropriately cycle through there. All right, cool. So we have these neat preset cameras in the scene, and we can step through them using these keybinds. So the way it's set up, which is really cool, is we can just add cameras all over the scene as we choose. This one can be overhead cam 2. This one can be overhead cam 3, if we so desire. And then if I play, I didn't change anything in the blueprint or anything like that. The whole setup is kind of, scalable. So now it's going to cycle through all of the cameras. Doop, 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 and back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So again, if we want to look at how this is looking on the character, we can see that there's 5, that's the current index, but there's 5 different cameras in the array, and where you can cycle through them. If you want to watch the index value, you can see. All right, cool. Let's move on to a little added feature and put this in a way we can access these cameras through our widget. All right, so I have my widget open here. If you remember, we just had our slider on it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to drop a scroll box on it. And let's just throw that in here. And we'll put it, I don't know, dadgummit. Things are so hard to move. I don't know why. Shame, I know. I'm sorry, guys. I'm kind of slacking a little bit here. Kind of tired, but that's okay. So we're going to put a scroll box here, and we're going to call this the camera list, and that'll be a variable, and then we're going to save this. All right, so what do we put in this scroll box? Well, we're going to have to create a button. So what I'm going to do, and I know I already have one here, so I'm going to create a new one. We're going to do a user interface widget and call it cam button toot for tutorial. But you guys already knew that. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. What this button is going to have on it is, or what this widget is going to have on it is a button. And what the button is going to have on it is some text. So the button I'd like to call cam button. And the text I'd like to call cam button text. And so the text isn't like overly huge, we're going to go over here. Where is my, oh, there's my font. Okay, and set this to like 12 and light. It's kind of small, isn't it? Let's go a little bigger, and then we'll just stretch our box out over that. Okay. So cool, we have that, and then let's say when we're hovered, we're going to be blue, and that'll cover the designer setup for this because that's super sexy looking. All right, over in our graph, there's a couple of things we want to do. First thing is on, we're not going to use pre-construct or tick, but on construct, I would like to get a reference to my character. So I'm going to right click and get player pawn. We're going to cast to our character that we're using for all of this. There we go. And then I'm going to, from the output here, I'm going to promote this to a variable, and we're just going to call it character reference, ref. All right. So that's all we have to do on the construct. So in order for this to work the way I want it to, I'm going to need another variable or two. So the first variable that I'm going to do is camera name. This will be a text, or I'm sorry, a string. And we're going to get a camera index that will set up in just a little bit. This will be an integer. So what we're going to do is whenever we're gathering all the cameras out of the scene in our character, we're going to create these buttons, put them in the scroll box on the main menu there, and make sure that we assign this index to it. That way the button knows which camera to bring up whenever we fire off a custom event in the camera. So, excuse me, more to come. Okay, I think that's going to do it for that portion. And we're going to go back to our tutorial menu. I think everything is good here. So back to the character. All right, I'm going to comment this out and call this cycle camera views. So let's just go ahead and move that out of the way. That's working. We're going to leave it alone. So the next thing I want to do is I want to create a custom event. And I might be going out of logical order here, but it'll all work out anyway. And we'll call this go to camera. So this go to camera is going to need an input, and that input is going to be the camera index. That will be an integer. All right. So we're going to grab our camera list. We're going to get one of the cameras from that list, and the index of that is going to be this. And then we're just going to pretty much copy the actor location and rotation. So I'm going to just copy that whole thing and put it over here. I missed the get. So we're going to do get that camera transform from our array, and there we go. All right. So this is going to, when this event is fired off, whatever index this is pointing to, we're going to move there to that camera. Okay. Compile and save, because that's a good idea. So at this point, we're going to need to return to the begin play. All right, so we're going to need a for each loop off of our camera list here. And for each item in this array, we are going to grab or create the camera buttons that are going to populate our scroll box on our main menu. So from here, we're going to do a create widget, and our widget class is going to be that camera button toot. And from there, remember, we're going to need to set a couple of variables on that button. Okay, one of those variables is going to be the camera index. And that's a pretty easy set because it's really just going to be our array index. And get this cleaned up a hair here. And then the other one is going to be the text that's on the button. So what we need to do is we need to get our cam. Did we set that as a variable? Cam button text needs to be set as a variable. Back on the character, we're going to be getting cam button text. And then we're going to set text. The text that we're going to set is the, you remember we named each camera, right? Get camera name, right? And then that is going to go into here. So, you know, thinking about this, I have this other camera name that I'm really not going to use, so delete it if you want, because this is going to set the camera text directly on that widget. All right, so we create the widget, we set everything on the widget, and then we need to add it, but we're going to add it to our main menu, which is the, what did we call it? Toot menu. So I'm going to grab the return value off of our creation of the toot menu widget, and then I am going to get the scroll. What did we call that? We called it the camera list. So get camera list, and that is that list box that we had in there, and then we're going to take our widget button, our camera button that we're creating, and we're going to add child, to the scroll box. We're going to add child, and the content for that child is the button widget that we just created, and we'll tie that in there. So whenever we fire this off, we should get a list of our cameras. Dynamically created. If I had 14 cameras in there, there'd be 14 buttons in there. Sadly, the width of our camera isn't working right, or it's not big enough. That's what it is. I'm going to go over here to my, you know, it doesn't really matter for the tutorial purpose, but dadgummit, I can't. It's that stupid OCD-ness. All right. So now we have stuff that works. All right, so you can see we hover over, we could click if we want to. It doesn't do anything because we haven't put anything on the button for it to function. So let's do that. We're going to go back to our cam button, to the button itself, and down here on clicked, we are going to take our character reference, and we're going to fire off that custom event. Remember, it's called go to camera, and we're going to fire that sucker off. And the index value that we want is the one that we set whenever the button was created. Piece of cake. So now we can go to barge cam, crane cam, overhead cam 1, 2, or 3. We can still do our brackets if we wanted to step through all of those as well. But that is it, folks. I mean, that's kind of the long and short of it. We created a preset camera. We gathered all references within the scene. We can step through them forward and backwards using the bracket keys. We created a button so you can use a button to go through those, which is exactly how we do it in that menu that I showed you previously. Same thing with the map, the overhead map, and we're going to be getting into that later. But this is just kind of the basics of how to set up preset cameras and get to them in your scene. So maybe in a video game, it's useful for, I don't know, you would set a fast travel place so you can bring up a menu and fast travel to here or fast travel to there or whatever. Yeah, so if you guys have any questions, let me know. I'll whenever I ever the little extra time that I have, I like doing these videos, and I'll do another one before too long. So thanks again. Hit me up in Discord. My ID will be down in the description. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time.